Welcome to my latest collection of mini reviews where I talk about 7 films in the time that it would normally take me to review just one. I have been watching a whole new bunch of films over the past few weeks and keeping track of those on paper. We've got quite a varied collection today. We have some new films which have just come out. We've got some older films. We've got films I caught on streaming services, at least one film that I saw at the cinema. And the quality of all these varies greatly as well, but at least 2 of these films are shit hot, and I can't wait to get to those. Now, I'm going to be talking about these in the exact order that I saw them, starting with this one. This is about a group of people who've got their own TV show, sort of similar to Ghost Hunters or Most Haunted, except when this particular crew are doing their 6th episode, they actually come across some real ghosts. I'm not saying that there aren't normally real ghosts in things like Ghost Hunters. I'm kind of on the fence as to the validity of the work done in shows like that, but certainly the ghosts in this film are very real. They start to pick off these characters one by one. You know that thing that happens in the Blair Witch Project where characters like walk for a mile and then suddenly they end up back on the spot that they started because the witch is sort of messing with the geography of the woods, sort of. That happens in this. No matter where the characters go, they always seem to end up back where they started. All the staircases and corridors have got messed up. So the film's quite clever in that respect, but what frustrated me at times is that these people just don't bang their heads together and come up with any decent game plan. They just wander around aimlessly. That was frustrating at times, but there are still a number of great scares in this. The atmosphere is really good. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I got more out of this film than I expected, in all honesty. The ending's good as well. The last 15-20 minutes are very creepy when it slowly starts to get whittled down to just 1 or 2 people. Apparently there's a sequel and I'm absolutely up for watching that. Maybe I will strive to check it out in time for my next batch of mini reviews. This is sort of similar to Demons, which came out just a couple of years before it, except Demons was set in a cinema. This is set in a mortuary. There's this bunch of teenagers who are going there for a party. But then once they arrive, they start to go off into different rooms to make out and stuff, and then they start getting taken over by demons. It's just very mediocre, this one, all the way through the movie. There's some good makeup jobs here and there, 1 or 2 nice little scare moments where a demon might pop out from somewhere and get someone. But on the whole, it's just very forgettable. I think they went on to make like 4 of these, which is a travesty, given the fact that the much superior Demons only got 2 movies. There's this really bad thing in this where if the characters are outside, it's supposed to be dark, and you know it's supposed to be dark because they're walking along feeling the wall and holding a torchlight or something, but it's really light. I think they just overlit the set, but it just looks silly. It's like, what are you doing? You are in light and you are feeling your way around like that. They just didn't do that very well. I can't even remember what happens in the finale of this, and I only saw it like a week and a half ago, but certainly I've no massive desire to go and watch number 2. I would much rather watch Grave Encounters 2. As you can probably guess, this is a shark movie. I'm guessing it was Australian made given the cast and locations, but it's one of the weakest of these types of movies I've seen for quite some time. I do like creature features at sea. I like aquatic horror. This just wasn't a very good one of those. Most of the movie takes place on this little dinghy that's just bobbing along with 4 or so characters in it, hoping that they'll come across land at some point before the nearby sharks will gobble them up. If you're going to make a movie as basic as that, you have to make sure that your characters are outstanding, and that just does not happen here. The 2 main characters, who are a couple, they're okay, but there's this one guy in the dinghy who is just one of the most annoying people I've seen in a movie for a long time. This movie is borderline unwatchable while this character is still alive. Once he dies, the last sort of 20-25 minutes after that are a lot better than anything that's come before it, but wow, what a hideously awful character. but there's just not much to enjoy in this. None of the kills are impressive in any way. One of them was actually really annoying in terms of how this guy just completely messes up a good position that he was in. It's no, I totally would not recommend this one. I've seen a lot of shark films. This is one of the poorest I've seen for quite some time. Cat O' Nine Tails is an early Dario Argento effort and absolutely the right film for me to watch after Great White, because Argento has never let me down. He is now 6 for 6 with me in terms of the films of his that I've watched. And I think this movie might just be the tipping point where I go from being casual Argento observer who appreciates his work into being a fully fledged Argento fan. I mean, how many of his films do I have to watch before I can call myself that? I think 6 is enough, especially when I've enjoyed every single one of them. I didn't expect this one to be as good as his other work because because it was made so early on in his career. I thought it would be a little bit cheap and not as refined as some of his later films like Suspiria and Deep Red, but it absolutely belongs in the company of those films. It's not as musically as accomplished as some of those other ones, but apart from that, it's brilliant. It's about this genetics facility in the middle of a city, and one night somebody tries to rob it, but it doesn't appear like they've stolen anything. And then a murder happens at a nearby railway station, which you quickly realise is connected. And then the story sort of goes on from there in the very best Gallo type way. We get additional murders throughout the film, and everything unfolds in a very satisfying way. There's some nice characters in there as well, and it's the sort of film which has made me just want to go back and watch it a second time, because I want to see the character interactions again now that I know who the killer was. I'm definitely going to buy this for my collection. I'm going to get a really nice Blu-ray copy, whatever the best version out there is, because this is a really, really good film. And I think if I'd have done my 1971 movie rankings video after having watched this, I think we might possibly have had a new #1 for that video instead of what we got. Get Carter was the winner of that video. I'm not sure actually between this and Get Carter, but certainly this would have charted very high if it had been allowed to participate in that competition. At some point, I think I would like to do a top 10 Argento video. I just need to watch a few more to make sure I've got enough films in the can, but certainly this film was a massive high for me. I really enjoyed it. And just like that, we're back in the doldrums again, because this is a really awful film. It's probably the least well-known film that I'm talking about today. I chose it completely on a whim the other night. I was scrolling through Amazon Prime, I think, and I was feeling really indecisive about what I wanted to watch. And so I just had a moment, I think, where my brain snapped and I thought, right, that's enough, that film, whether I like it or not. And it turned out to be Preservation, that was top on the wheel of fortune as it was spinning around, so to speak. But boy, did I make a bad decision. There is very little to like about this. I mean, it is the worst film that I am reviewing in this video, even worse than Great White. At least Great White has some gorgeous cinematography and a nice female lead you can look at. This film has almost nothing to enjoy. It's about these three friends. It's a couple and their friends, the three of them, and they're going camping with a view to possibly doing some hunting as well. But it turns out that in these woods that they're going to, there's a group of teenagers driving around on a bike, riding around on bikes, and they've got like skateboard gear that they're using as body armor, sort of, and they've got these masks as well. It's sort of like an American version of Eden Lake, in that you've got unruly teenagers being really immoral and just killing adults that come onto their patch, but it's just really boring, and it does this irritating trope that I cannot stand in movies. So what happens in this film is you'll get a good guy fighting a bad guy, and it'll appear that the good guy is winning and the bad guy will end up on the floor. Yay for the good guy. But then he or she will turn around to make a phone call or something, and then the bad guy will just rise up and stab the good guy in the back, get up, walk off, carry on with the movie. Now, this sort of thing bugs me if it happens just once in an otherwise very good film. But in Preservation, it just happens on repeat, like 3 or 4 times throughout. And even the finale is basically a reversal of this. So the bad guy appears to have won, turns around to make a phone call, and then the final girl kills him. It's so annoying. Why would anybody make a film and think that I want to see this same thing over and over again? It's such an annoying trope. I remember seeing it when I was a kid in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, when the Sheriff of Nottingham appears to have got the better of Robin Hood, and then Robin Hood pulls a knife out at the last minute, and I just don't like it. I mean, even if you don't mind that in a movie, the rest of this film is still really bad. There's one good moment when the main final girl goes to sleep, and in the same shot she sort of wakes up, but somebody's painted a target on her head. I thought that was a clever little shot that they put in there that was creative, and somebody put some thought into it. But aside from that, how many different ways can I say the word avoid? It's not very good, this one. And so we arrive at the second of today's really outstanding movies. Superdeep is about this drilling hole in Russia, which supposedly is the deepest drilling hole in the world. But the crew at the bottom of this thing have contracted some kind of weird disease. So they send in this female scientist and some government officials and some army guys and stuff to investigate. So it's not a plot that you won't have seen before, but it's a really cool film. It's a bit of a slow burn. It's almost 2 hours long, and maybe it didn't need to be. But the last half an hour is worth waiting for. It's something else. I mean, if you've ever seen the film Martyrs, you'll know that that movie has a really unforgettable last act, which, regardless of whether you like the film or not, you'll never forget what happens in the last sort of 20, 30 minutes of that. I don't particularly like Martyrs, but I can never get some of those images out of my brain. The same is true for the last act of Superdeep. I mean, it's not depressing like Martyrs, but I will never forget what happens at the end of this film. It's absolutely amazing. I was just watching it thinking, wow, this is crazy. I mean, this is great stuff. I can't believe no one's ever come up with this idea before. Maybe they have, and it's from a film that I've just never seen before. But as far as I was concerned, watching this, it was totally original stuff, and it blew me away. And it made the slowness of the film up to that point totally worth it. Although I'm not saying that the rest of the movie is bad. I still quite enjoyed, the slow and steady build up and the mystery that was unfolding at the director's own pace, I guess. But for some people, I'm not sure they'll still be watching by the last half an hour, but I would absolutely recommend this. It's really great. I'm not sure if it'll ever be available for home purchase because it's a Shudder exclusive. Yes, you will need Shudder to watch this one, I think. But it's a really cool movie. Can't over exaggerate that enough. So finally today we have the Forever Purge, which I saw at the cinema just the other night. It's the first time actually I've gone to see a Purge film at the cinema. I would sort of call myself a fan of these, though I've still never seen the fourth film, so I guess I can't call myself a diehard or anything. But the thing about this series is that there are no outstanding films, but there's no shit ones either, at least in my opinion. They're just all the same kind of decent-ish quality. I'd still say that The Purge Anarchy is my favourite of the ones that I've seen. But this fifth one has a nice twist halfway through it, which just kind of shakes up the formula a bit. It's a bit slow in the first 20, 30 minutes. We focus on way too many characters, I think, and I was a little bit bored for a while. But once it gets going, it's a lot of fun. And the finale is weirdly a bit like the end of some kind of 80s action film, but I had a good time. I would absolutely go and watch a Purge 6 in the cinema, which I believe they are going to do from what I read on the internet, so that would be pretty cool. So there we have it. That is my last mini review for today. I will hopefully be back for another collection at some point in the not too distant future, but for now, goodbye.